Let's look at some AI news that you might have probably missed last week. Agent, a company that makes AI avatar stock, has done a tremendous job. Like the AI almost looks like a human being. If you see the sample, like from the person Joshua who has created this is Avatar 2.0, and these clips are 100% AI generated, and it has this unique accent as well. It can do accent, and internet has gone bonkers with this thing. Like look at the video for yourself.
In the early days of computer programming, a significant historical anecdote is known as Grace Hopper and the bug. In 1947, at Harvard University, Rear Admiral Grace Hopper was working on the Mark II computer. One day, the system stopped working, and technicians discovered a moth trapped between the contacts of a relay, causing the malfunction.
If you are interested in getting access, you can join this early access form and fill out the form, and then you can get this ultra realistic avatar waitlist. Like you can join that and get. But this is like super impressive. A lot of people have been doing this thing, and I think they're also pitching it to a lot of influencers and celebrities to make AI avatars of them. But this is amazingly impressive. Recently, I had made a video about ChatGPT custom instructions, and at the time of the video, it was available only for the ChatGPT Plus users, and of course, it is still not available in Europe. But now ChatGPT has expanded, or OpenAI has expanded the custom instructions feature to free users as well. I'll link the video in the YouTube description so you know how to use it. But custom instruction is the thing, like it helps you create like a profile or give you instructions to ChatGPT, create macros, and a lot of interesting things. People have been trying it out often, and it is quite impressive like what you can do with ChatGPT custom instructions. The fact that it is available for free users, it is another cherry on the top. But if you are in the EU, European Union region, and the UK, it is still not available. You might have to wait for some more time. Not sure what is the reason. But if you have got the free ChatGPT version, you can still try out custom instructions. This is quite amazing for free users. This is another news that was so widely discussed last week. This is OpenAI launching a new crawler called GPTBot. This is nothing fancy, to be honest. Like this is not like a new agent or new AI or anything. It's simply like the way search engines work. So for a search engine to collect data from websites, there is something called a crawler that goes on, identifies all the links that are available on the internet, and it crawls that content and then gives it back to the search engine. But if you do not want OpenAI to use your website information, then that is where this entire thing becomes very interesting. Or if you do web analytics and you want to know what % of your traffic or what is the amount of things or content that ChatGPT or OpenAI has consumed, then that is again where you use something called OpenAI's GPTBot. So OpenAI's GPTBot is OpenAI's web crawler, and that can be identified using this token called GPTBot, and this is the full agent string. Like you've got the string. What you can do is, like, why people were actually discussing this is that you can disable or you can disallow GPTBot from accessing your website. For example, let's say you don't want to help OpenAI use your data, or you don't want to allow OpenAI to consume any of your content, then you can go to robots.txt, which is a root, which is a file that is present in the root folder of your server, and you can add this line to it. So if you are familiar with SEO, probably you know all these things already. You can also customize the GPTBot access. The very interesting thing about this is when OpenAI built GPT for the first time, they never spoke about the training data. But now it seems like they want to build this image where they want to say that, okay, we will not consume data unless you give us the consent, which is slightly weird. But of course, like now they're a big company, there is a lot of scrutiny, so they have launched this GPTBot, which is of course a web crawler which you can control by either allowing it or disallowing it from consuming your content. Since the launch of GPT-4, there has been a lot of claim around how GPT-4 is brilliant. I mean, like, there were even papers published that GPT-4 is the closest thing to AGI. In fact, somebody claimed that GPT-4 is in fact AGI because it can do a lot of things, especially in the reasoning front. There is a very new paper that is still not peer reviewed that says GPT-4 can't reason. And then the reason why they are saying that is because GPT-4 is really good at a lot of things, like especially in the NLP community, GPT-4 is really good at solving NLP problems. But what they are claiming is that they have introduced a new 21 diverse reasoning problems, and GPT-4 is utterly incapable of reasoning with the new benchmark that they have introduced. I've not still gone through very deep into this paper, but I found it really interesting. I mean, one is of course because this is completely different from what everybody has been claiming about AGI and GPT-4 closer to AGI. I mean, there are a lot of influencers on Twitter who would say, oh, GPT-5 would become AGI because GPT-4 is the closest to AGI. But this paper actually says even GPT-4 is not even good at reasoning. I wouldn't say like maybe it can't reason at all, but they have got some arguments about like what is reasoning, why reasoning is not as the same thing as intelligence, and what makes it different. And they also go into deep about like what is the 21 new questions, the problems that they are introducing, and GPT-4, how does GPT-4 perform in it. So if you are interested in it, I'm happy to make separate dedicated video about it. But before I make it, if you want to read through the paper, I'll link it in the description. And I definitely enjoyed reading the abstract because see, everybody is saying that AGI is closer, GPT-4 is here, and whatever we are doing already is AGI. And some people are already still there, like the skeptics who say that GPT-4 or GPT 3.5, this is like a very large memory machine that has memorized everything on internet and it can just answer, but it cannot reason. And this paper seems to be closely aligned with that school of thought, where they say that okay, GPT-4 can answer your questions based on what it has got in memory, but it cannot reason. That's what intelligence is all about. So this paper is quite interesting and I wanted to share with you. Moving away from OpenAI and GPT related news, you can see that ElevenLabs is making tremendous progress in what they are doing. And in fact, their recent partnership that they've announced with Inworld actually brings ElevenLabs capabilities to AI NPCs. NPCs are these characters that are there in games, like which you do not necessarily, like part of the main characters that people play. They're just there. Imagine like you've got AI NPCs and you can, and they can have like human-like dynamic voices. And that's exactly what this partnership is going to bring out. Inworld adds like the voice capabilities from ElevenLabs to world's leading AI character engine. And you can read more about this. Like, I don't know if you have played Grand Theft Auto or GTA. If you're in GTA, NPCs are there and those NPCs are actually powered by Inworld. Now with this AI voice capabilities, those NPCs can actually have like a really human-like voice. And we all know already like how good ElevenLabs is. So this is an amazing partnership. Once again, to say that a lot of people still claim that generative AI do not have real life impact, and partnerships like this actually prove them wrong, to say that okay, there are pockets where generative AI can make tremendous impact, and gaming is definitely one of the areas. It seems like ElevenLabs is doing the right thing to get these technologies into the hands of developers. One of the most viral agent related paper that came out like quite a while back is this generative agent. This almost like broke the internet, I would say. Like a lot of people do not like it when I use that word, but this literally broke the internet. Everybody was talking about it, and this paper today or recently this week has been open source. So everything that was used about this paper has been open source. You can go read it. It has been released with Apache 2.0 license. They'll let you set up the environment, they'll let you use it. I mean, there is a lot of requirements for this. Definitely you can go check the requirements.txt file to see what kind of things that you want to use it. But the fact that this entire piece is open source and you can train or you can have your agents that interact with each other, talk to each other like in a game environment on your local machine is quite amazing. I do not know if I have like enough capabilities to try this out like on my local machine, but this is certainly fascinating, the fact that the paper is actually real and then you can use this. If you do not remember this, I would link this video in the YouTube description. I was fascinated when this came out. This is actually like a simulated world where AI agents interact with each other, not just necessarily like humans. This is very similar like what we just discussed. It's like NPCs discussing things with NPCs, or the main character of game actually being like NPC without having a human being to control it. I think this is quite unbelievable, and I guess a lot of people would do a lot of different things with this. It definitely needs OpenAI API key, but it needs a lot of other things as well. I'll link the GitHub in the YouTube description. Definitely check it out. But the fact that the team went ahead and then open sourced it is quite amazing. Kudos to the team. Freshly out of SIGGRAPH, Nvidia has made a lot of announcements, and one of the standout announcements is that Nvidia has revealed or announced a new AI super chip that can reduce the LLM cost significantly, like running the LLM cost significantly. And what is this chip? So this is a same categories of chip, like almost like that they had already, H100. So the new chip that they've launched is called GH200. I think GH stands for Grasshopper. So Nvidia's president CEO CEO Jensen has released this new chip, and the new chip is supposed to have like a really good memory of 141 gigabytes, like 141 GB of memory, GPU memory. That is quite amazing. And it also has a 72 core ARM central processor. So the advantage here is that, like, if you want to run models, typically what people do is, like, they try to have like multiple GPUs combined together to run a large model. But what Nvidia is trying to do with this is, Nvidia is trying to take over all these data centers with CPU and replace data centers with this new GPU that has like huge amount of memory, which means you can pretty much fit any large language model within the same GPU, single GPU, and then this can have like a huge impact in how large language models are being run, and also the kind of inference speed and all the advantages that you have got. So this is quite amazing. H100 had 80 GB memory. Now GH200 has 141 GB memory. So this is quite amazing. Nvidia has made a lot of other announcement as well as part of SIGGRAPH, and I would definitely recommend you to check out Matt Wolf's recent video about last week in AI, where he has covered a lot of SIGGRAPH videos. That's why I didn't want to go into the SIGGRAPH announcement, because I didn't want to duplicate content. But overall, this AI super chip is definitely worth talking about. The article that covered this AI super chip also had like an interesting quote from Jensen, which is to say that everyone is a programmer. Now all you have to do is just have to say something to computer. I mean, until now, when you had to program, you had to learn certain syntaxes, you had to learn the computer language. I mean, that's why it's called a programming language. But now for you to program, like, there are a lot of tools out there. All you have to do is you have to tell the computer. I am definitely interested in seeing how this is going to play out. Like, for example, whenever you talk to kids would just simply come and tell you that, I want like a unicorn flying, and always whenever you had to make a unicorn flying, it was not always easy. But now you've got Stable Diffusion connected to a voice system. All they have to do is like, I want a unicorn flying, and then you can just pass this text, give it to Stable Diffusion, and in a few seconds you will have a picture of unicorn flying. I think this is quite amazing and interesting development when a very similar pipeline flows into programming. I think that's what Jensen is referring to here. Of course, he wants to sell more GPUs, there is no doubt about it, but this super AI chip or super chip seems very interesting about what Nvidia can do in this space. And I'm also always looking forward to see this low cost solutions like LoRa based models, QLoRa based models. I want to see how those would impact this Nvidia's world of launching like very large GPUs. But overall, this seems to be a very interesting announcement about a new AI chip from Nvidia. Once again, for developers, there is a new announcement from Google, and that is called Project IDX. Project IDX is an AI-enabled browser-based development environment. Imagine like you have to develop an Android application. Typically, what you would do, you would download an Android Studio software, install it on your local machine, and then you try to develop it. The same with iOS applications. You would install Xcode, or you would install Swift, Playground, something like that, and then you would try to develop the application. But what if in a browser-based, like how Jupyter Notebook is, what if in a browser-based development environment you could develop new softwares? And that's exactly what Project IDX is trying to do with some support from AI. So Project IDX is a new development environment, like an IDE from Google, and what it lets you do is it lets you do a lot of things. Like, for example, you can go ahead and create a web application, a Flutter application, or a bunch of other things, and AI is there to help you. Project IDX is not like widely available as far as I know, so you have to probably get some kind of access to go through it. But this is an interesting, again, way of Google trying to get AI to developers. If you remember, one of the tools that a lot of developers still love a lot is GitHub Copilot, which is also sometimes integrated closely with Visual Studio Code. So there is a lot of things happening in that space. It seems like Google is trying to come into this space and capture the developers' love, probably, I don't know. Google Colab also has got some kind of AI capabilities recently, but also, as a matter of fact, now we have got like a dedicated IDE that can help us do programming or create applications with the support from AI, and that is what Project IDX is. There are a lot of things that people try to do with LLMs, like using LLMs as agents, using LLMs to create music, and a lot of other things. One thing that I found really interesting is using LLMs as a DBA. DBA stands for Database Administrators. Like, if you're working in a very big corporation, you would of course know that the libraries or the SQL tables the database tables that you use are actually managed by somebody else. Like you would query the table, you would probably create a table, but there is like a group of engineers, software engineers, who are also known as like database admins, DBAs, who would I don't know, should I call them software engineers? Maybe that's a controversial thing. Anyways, DBAs manage these tables. So what if LLMs can be your DBA? And that's exactly what this paper is trying to do. So they have introduced a new bot or an LLM based DBA called DBot, and that can learn the DBA, the experience of being a DBA from textual sources, and it does a pretty good job. That's what they're claiming to say, that LLMs can be DBAs, and you can just, like, there is a thought says high memory usage seems to be caused by poor joint performance and much inactive memory, and it reasons something from that. We just literally saw a paper that says GPT-4 can't reason, and then it creates an action, and then it rewrites the logical query, it optimizes things, and it does a lot of these kind of changes. And there is a demo that you should definitely check out. I mean, with all these things, will you give LLM access to your DB? I mean, like, if you've got a production DB, will you give access? Will you let LLMs in fact edit the DBs? I think that's a larger question. Like, if I'm running a company, if I've got production DBs, I would not give LLMs access edit capabilities. I mean, if you want to query, you can always query. That is a different topic altogether. But will I let them edit my DB, change the queries? That's maybe a question that people have to ask themselves. Still, it is a very interesting application. The fact that you can make LLMs do certain things, and that is exactly what this project is about. Final item in our list is probably something that you all are going to love. This is an open source model, and that is from the Wizard LM family. This is called WizardMath. This is a math focused large language models. I mean, like, let's say you're a math teacher and you want to help your students learn math better with this kind of AI assistance. I think this is a model that is your go-to model if you want an open source model. There is two demos that are shared with this thing. So the point here is that, like, large language models are trained for a lot of different tasks, but can you fine tune them for a specific niche? And that's exactly what they've done here, where they have tried to make a model, Wizard LM model, using a very popular technique that they've been using called EvolInstruct. So they've used EvolInstruct to fine tune a new model that is math specific. And you can go ahead and ask questions like, okay, factor the polynomial and give this thing, and the large language model can split up this problem into certain cases and then give you how to do the same problem. And I think this is a fascinating approach. And the fact that GoogleBot, if you know that they have like this two system approach, where they, for these kind of math questions, they use Python programming, and for questions larger than this, they would use like the actual large language model. And the way I see is, like, you can link this to, let's say, a Python code. For example, now you have got Wizard Coder. So you can connect Wizard Math with Wizard Coder, and you can take a simple math question, reason that, get into like a better math problem, and then translate it into Python code, get it executed, give it back to the user. I mean, this is very good for learning and teaching. I cannot think of better solutions at this point, like what kind of things that can happen. But the fact that, you know, you have got a model that understands math means, like, you can implement a lot of math papers. I mean, you don't need human beings for that. I mean, again, this is a vision. This is not like tomorrow you can do this thing. But the fact that now you can give math problem to large language model, which can reason it, or which can understand the question, give an output, which can be fed into another model that can create computer programming code. I am so fascinated about this future, where large language models can be used to create things like this, and it is fascinating. And that's what WizardMath 7 billion parameter model, and they've got a lot of models. Like, I think they've released 70 billion parameter model and 13 billion parameter model also, and you can definitely go ahead and then try it out and then see how it goes. They've also enabled the COT option, the chain of thought option. So if for simple questions you don't have to use chain of thought, but if you've got complicated questions, you can enable chain of thought and use this model. So this has been, like I said, fine-tuned with reinforced EvolInstruct. That's an approach that they have created that seems like working fine well. And they've also claimed that this model, the WizardMath 70 billion parameter model, has beaten certain proprietary solutions like ChatGPT. Still, GPT-4 is still at the top, but it has beaten certain proprietary solutions like ChatGPT. So which is very interesting to see an open source model doing it. Let me know if you end up trying this and then how it goes. But I think I wanted to end this video with a really positive news in the open source world, and that is WizardMath. I hope you really enjoyed this coverage of the news, the top 10, or like the kind of 10 AI news that you missed in the last week. There are a lot of people on the internet who make last week in AI news coverage. I wanted to bring unique content to you, so I don't want to repeat exactly whatever somebody has done. So I'm trying to bring in something that people have not already spoken about it. Like I gave you an example, like Matt Wolf had done an extensive coverage of Nvidia and SIGGRAPH last week. So I wanted to bring you different content. Let me know if you like this. Let me know if you have any suggestions for this format, and see you in another video. Happy prompting.